Well, the Congress party has mocked the Modi government for seeking help from countries to contain the infection, the crisis of COVID-19 right now. Former Union Minister and veteran Congress leader Jairam Ramesh has hit out at the Modi government over its reach out for global help to fight India's crisis. He says, and I quote, "While we should welcome all international help, isn't it ironic that the self-styled Vishwaguru and global pharmacy of 5 trillion economy 2B has been reduced to this pathetic situation by ego and repeated denial of the problem. Yet there's no end to the megalomania and self-promotion," he says. His barbs come after the US agreed to end embargo on raw materials and decided to export surplus vaccines to the world, in fact, after initially declining to do so. India has also been helped by other countries like the UK, Russia, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Well, these are questions that the Congress now, Jairam Ramesh, is asking. But is this view of the Congress party by and large is the question. Right now, we're going across to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who's addressing the press. Listen in.
बैंकॉक से 18 टैंकर इंपोर्ट करने का निर्णय लिया है। ये टैंकर कल से आने चालू हो जाएंगे और केंद्र सरकार से हमने इसके लिए एयरफोर्स के प्लेन्स देने के लिए रिक्वेस्ट किया। उनका काफ़ी सकारात्मक रवैया रहा है, बातचीत चल रही है और मैं पूरी उम्मीद करता हूं कि बातचीत सफल रहेगी। केंद्र सरकार का भी पूरा सहयोग मिल रहा है इसमें। तो अगर 18 टैंकर बैंकॉक से कल से आने चालू हो जाएंगे, वो 18 टैंकर आ जाते हैं तो जो ऑक्सीजन को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने की परेशानी आ रही थी वो परेशानी दूर हो जाएगी और हमें अपनी पूरी ऑक्सीजन मिलनी चालू हो जाएगी। दूसरी कि फ्रांस से हम लोग 21 ऑक्सीजन के प्लांट इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। रेडी टू यूज़ प्लांट्स हैं ये और तुरंत इनका इस्तेमाल शुरू किया जा सकता है। इससे भी इनको 21 ऑक्सीजन के प्लांट्स को अलग अलग अस्पतालों में लगा देंगे तो उन अस्पतालों में ऑक्सीजन की कमी दूर करने में हम लोगों को मदद मिलेगी। पिछले 4-5 दिन में मैंने देश के कई उद्योगपतियों को चिट्ठी लिखी थी, मदद मांगी थी। देश की सभी मुख्यमंत्रियों को मैंने चिट्ठी लिखी थी, उनसे मदद मांगी थी और हमें बहुत ज़बरदस्त सहयोग मिल रहा है। बहुत लोगों के ऑफ़र आए हैं, उन सब के साथ बातचीत चल रही है। बहुत सारी चीज़ें आगे बढ़ रही हैं बड़ी तेज़ी के साथ। उनमें से कई लोग मदद कर रहे हैं। बस उन्होंने मोस्टली लोगों ने एक ही शर्त रखी है कि हम अपना नाम नहीं बताना चाहते, हम आपकी वैसे ही मदद करेंगे। ये तो और भी बड़ा बड़प्पन है। हमारे कहते हैं ना कि जब आदमी किसी की मदद करे तो दाएं हाथ से मदद करे तो बाएं हाथ को भी पता नहीं चलना चाहिए कि उसने मदद की है। इस एटीट्यूड के साथ हमारे सब लोग मदद कर रहे हैं। मैं उन सारी सरकारों का, सभी मुख्यमंत्रियों का, सभी उद्योगपतियों का, सभी समाज सेवी संस्थाओं का, सभी धार्मिक संस्थाओं का जो बढ़ चढ़ के दिल्ली के लोगों की और दिल्ली सरकार की इस टाइम मदद कर रहे हैं, उन सब का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूं। अभी जो मैंने अनाउंसमेंट्स की हैं इसमें भी बहुत सारे लोगों का सहयोग है। इतने कम समय में ये तभी संभव हो पाया कि उन कई लोगों ने इसमें मदद की, तभी हम ये टैंकर बैंकॉक से मंगा पा रहे हैं, फ्रांस से ऑक्सीजन के प्लांट्स मंगा पा रहे हैं। पिछले हफ्ते हमने देखा 3 दिन ऐसे थे, बृहस्पतिवार, शुक्रवार और शनिवार, जब दिल्ली में अस्पतालों में बहुत ज़्यादा अफरा तफरी हो गई थी। यहाँ ऑक्सीजन ख़त्म होने वाली है, वहाँ ऑक्सीजन ख़त्म होने वाली है। मैं भी काफ़ी घबरा गया था कि कहीं कोई दिल्ली के अंदर हादसा ना हो जाए कि टाइम पे ऑक्सीजन नहीं पहुँची और कई सारे लोगों की मृत्यु ना हो जाए। पूरी रात जाग के हमने बिताई है। एक फ़ोन कॉल आता था, SOS आता था, मैसेज आता था कि यहाँ ऑक्सीजन ख़त्म होने वाली है। उसको तुरंत कहीं ना कहीं से इंतज़ाम करके हम लोग ऑक्सीजन भिजवाते थे। लेकिन उसके बाद से स्थिति में काफ़ी सुधार हुआ है। पिछले 2 दिन में आप देखेंगे कि इस किस्म के SOS मैसेजेस अस्पतालों के, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा बिल्कुल नहीं आ रहे, अभी भी मैं देखता रहता हूँ, पढ़ता रहता हूँ। एक दो अस्पताल दिन में उनका आता रहता है कि यहाँ ऑक्सीजन पहुँचने में देरी हो गई, यहाँ ऑक्सीजन। लेकिन जो हालत बृहस्पति, शुक्र और शनि को थी, बिल्कुल पागलपन वाली हालत, ऐसी पिछले 2-3 दिन में अब नहीं है। और इसके लिए दिल्ली सरकार और केंद्र सरकार की टीम्स ने बैठ के, दोनों के अफसरों की टीम्स ने बैठ के बहुत मेहनत की है। कई सारे इश्यूज़ थे इसके ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को लेके, और वो बहुत सारे इश्यूज़ थे जो सॉर्ट आउट किए गए हैं। मैं केंद्र सरकार के उन सभी अधिकारियों का और केंद्र सरकार का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ जिन्होंने इस कठिन घड़ी में हम लोगों का सहयोग किया। और आज सुबह केंद्र सरकार ने केंद्र सरकार भी इंपोर्ट कर रही है कई सारे टैंकर्स। दिल्ली के लिए 5 अलग से टैंकर केंद्र सरकार ने हमें दिए हैं, उसके लिए भी मैं केंद्र सरकार का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ। अगले 1 महीने के अंदर दिल्ली में हम 44 ऑक्सीजन के प्लांट्स लगाने जा रहे हैं, 44। इसमें 8 प्लांट्स केंद्र सरकार लगा रही है, वो कुछ बीच में डिले हो गया था जो भी कारण रहे, लेकिन अब उम्मीद है कि 30 अप्रैल तक ये शायद 8 प्लांट्स लग के तैयार हो जाएंगे। और 36 प्लांट्स ऑक्सीजन के दिल्ली सरकार लगा रही है, जिसमें से मैंने बताया जैसे आपको 21 प्लांट्स फ्रांस से आ रहे हैं और बाकी 15 प्लांट्स हमारे देश के हैं। तो 36 ऑक्सीजन के प्लांट्स अगले 1 महीने के अंदर दिल्ली सरकार लगा रही है। इन 44 प्लांट्स को अलग अलग अस्पतालों में जब लगाया जाएगा तो उससे ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई काफ़ी इम्प्रूव होगी। एक ये देखने में आ रहा है कि ये वाली जो वेव आई है ये ज़्यादा खतरनाक है। एक तो फैल ज़्यादा रही है, बहुत तेज़ी से फैल रही है, और जो लोग बीमार हो रहे हैं वो ज़्यादा सीरियस होते जा रहे हैं। तो इस वक्त सबसे ज़्यादा डिमांड आईसीयू के बेड्स की है। मेरे पास जितने फ़ोन आते हैं, सर कहीं से आईसीयू के बेड के इंतज़ाम कर दीजिए, कहीं से आईसीयू के बेड का इंतज़ाम कर दीजिए। और पूरी कोशिश करने के बावजूद इस समय अस्पताल ओवरलोडेड है, हर अस्पताल कैपेसिटी से ज़्यादा काम कर रहा है, बेड भरे हुए हैं, आईसीयू बेड्स भरे हुए हैं। तो आईसीयू बेड्स को बहुत बड़े स्तर पे विस्तार कर केंद्र सरकार ने 500 आईसीयू बेड्स हम लोगों को बना के दिए डीआरडीओ के एयरपोर्ट के पास। और आपको जान के ताज्जुब होगा कि वो प्लांट जैसे ही बन के तैयार हुए, जैसे ही हमने अनाउंस किया, 3 घंटे के अंदर 500 के 500 बेड भर गए। केवल 3 घंटे के अंदर इतने सीरियस मरीज घूम रहे हैं जो इलाज ढूंढ रहे हैं। तो अभी हम 500 आईसीयू बेड्स, आज सुबह सुबह मैं मुआयना करके आया हूँ, जीटीबी हॉस्पिटल के सामने एक रामलीला मैदान है, वहाँ पे हम 500 आईसीयू बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं। एलएनजेपी अस्पताल के सामने अपना जो मेन रामलीला मैदान है, वहाँ भी हम 500 आईसीयू बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं। और राधा स्वामी सत्संग में हम 200 आईसीयू बेड्स तैयार कर रहे हैं। तो ये 1200 आईसीयू बेड्स गंभीर मरीजों की देखभाल के लिए, ये 1200 आईसीयू बेड्स 10 मई तक बन के तैयार हो जाएंगे। इससे मुझे लगता है कि लोगों को भी बहुत राहत मिलेगी और पूरे सिस्टम को बहुत राहत मिलेगी जो अभी पूरी तरह से स्ट्रेच हो गया है। तो हम लगे हुए हैं, 24 घंटे लगे हुए हैं, सबके साथ मिलके काम कर रहे हैं, सारी सरकारों के साथ, सारे देश में राज्य सरकारों के साथ, केंद्र सरकार के साथ, अलग अलग समाज सेवी संस्थाओं के साथ, उद्योगपतियों के साथ, सबके साथ मिलके काम कर रहे हैं। सबका सहयोग मिल रहा है और मेरी यही एक उम्मीद है कि अगर हम सब मिलके काम करेंगे तो कोई कारण नहीं है कि हम इस पे जीत नहीं पा सकते। नमस्कार।
Okay, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal talking about the fact that it does appear that as far as the oxygen situation is concerned, things seem to be improving in the national capital. He's also spoken about the fact that India and Delhi, in fact, particularly is taking help from various other countries as far as medical equipment and oxygen concentrators is concerned. And talking about the national capital, Delhi is under a strict lockdown, has now got some relief in daily cases. There is a marginal fall in overall cases. New infections pegged at 20,201, lower than over 22,900 cases was registered yesterday. But the number of deaths have gone up to 380, the highest single-day rise in its COVID-19 death toll. The positivity rate has surpassed the 35% mark now. This is the 5th day on the trot that Delhi has recorded over 300 deaths because of coronavirus. It had reported 350 deaths on Sunday, 357 deaths on Saturday, and 348 on Friday, 306 on Thursday.
अभी सबसे ज़्यादा इस वेव के अंदर पेशेंट सीरियस बहुत ज़्यादा आ रहे हैं। तो जो भी हॉस्पिटल में आ रहा है उसको या तो ऑक्सीजन का बेड चाहिए और मैक्सिमम लोग आईसीयू बेड ढूंढ रहे हैं। और अभी पूरी दिल्ली के अंदर हम देख रहे हैं कि लगभग आईसीयू बेड ख़त्म हो चुके हैं। तो ये वॉर फुटिंग के ऊपर जीटीबी हॉस्पिटल के सामने एक रामलीला ग्राउंड है, और एक ही अपना जो दिल्ली का मेन रामलीला ग्राउंड है। तो 500 आईसीयू बेड उधर बन रहे हैं और 500 आईसीयू बेड इधर बन रहे हैं और 200 आईसीयू बेड राधा स्वामी वाले कॉम्प्लेक्स में बन रहे हैं। तो लगभग 1200 आईसीयू बेड्स, प्रॉपर आईसीयू बेड्स जो हैं ये हमारे 10 मई तक बन के तैयार हो जाएंगे और इससे मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि लोगों को काफ़ी राहत मिलेगी।
Well, days after lifting the embargo on vaccine raw materials, US President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a telephonic conversation which the latter termed as fruitful. Prime Minister Modi thanked the US President for the assistance being provided by the US to India in its battle against COVID-19. Modi and Biden discussed the evolving situation in both countries in detail in the call. The Prime Minister emphasized that India-US healthcare partnership can address the global challenge of COVID-19. During the discussion, the Prime Minister also underlined the importance of smooth and efficient supply chains for vaccine raw materials. Remember, US on Sunday agreed to lift the embargo on vaccine raw material exports. The Biden administration has assured supply of rapid diagnostic test kits, ventilators and also PPE kits to help India's fight. While facing criticism over sitting on vast stockpiles of unused vaccine doses, the United States has finally assured that it's going to be sharing its entire pipeline of AstraZeneca vaccine with the nations needing them and using them currently. The White House has said that as many as 6 crore doses are expected to be available for export in coming months once the vaccine clears federal safety reviews. The AstraZeneca vaccine is widely in use around the world but not yet authorized by the US FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration. Meanwhile, Bollywood star Priyanka Chopra thanked the US for sharing the AstraZeneca doses with the world and also appealed to them to share the vaccine doses with India, saying the condition in the country was critical.
Thanks.
Well, speaking to India Today's Gaurav Sawant, senior journalist and expert on India-US ties, Seema Sirohi has affirmed that US will have to let go its AstraZeneca stockpile since it hasn't been approved by the country's regulatory authority. Listen in.
US stockpile of some 20 million doses of AstraZeneca, and is there clarity US will not be using that? Is that available?
See, that is the big question. The US right now has between 35 to 40 million AstraZeneca doses sitting on its shelves. The FDA has not approved AstraZeneca for use in the United States. Most health experts agree that it's unlikely to give the green signal. So it's not going to be used in the United States. It should just be sent, sold, granted to other countries.
Okay.
US, in addition to all this, has 60 million doses of Moderna and Pfizer. Its production is way ahead of what is needed right now. So AstraZeneca is something the US can easily give to other countries like India, Brazil, and there are 130 countries in the world where not a single dose has been administered.
Well, the world continues to stand by India in COVID fight. The United Kingdom is sending more than 600 pieces of vital medical equipment, including ventilators and oxygen concentrators, to India to support the fight against the raging COVID-19 second wave. Following discussions with India, the first shipment of equipment arrived in India this morning. Further shipments are due to follow later this week. The assistance package, funded by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, includes ventilators and oxygen concentrators from surplus stocks. It's going to be used by the Indian government to provide vital medical treatment to those suffering from COVID-19 in India. This week, India reported its highest numbers of daily cases of COVID and deaths since the pandemic began and is facing severe shortage of oxygen. Well, just days ahead of the COVID-19 vaccine rollout for all above the age of 18, India today has learned that the centre has asked Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech to explore the possibility of lowering prices of vaccine to states. in an effort to ensure that vaccine reaches to all. Moreover, sources have told India Today that Bharat Biotech, after the centre's request, is likely going to be reducing the prices of Covaxin, at least for the states. So far, no consensus have been achieved on reducing prices of vaccine to private players. Remember, this development comes after several political parties cornered the centre over this sort of a differential pricing. And it's not just political parties. Various vaccine watchers, the civil society in general also has been talking about the differential rates here and how that makes any sense. As of now, Bharat Biotech's Covaxin is being sold at 1,200 rupees a dose to private hospitals, 600 rupees per dose to state government. Serum Institute of India and Oxford-Zeneca's Covishield is being sold at 600 rupees a dose to private hospitals and 400 per dose to the state government. Well, a day after Madras High Court blamed the Election Commission for the raging second wave of coronavirus pandemic, the Election Commission of India has banned all victory processions on or after the counting of votes for the assembly elections on the 2nd of May. Not more than 2 persons can accompany winning candidate to receive the certificate. BJP Chief JP Nadda has welcomed the decision and said they will strictly adhere to the decision. Madras High Court had asked the poll body to prepare a blueprint of how COVID protocol would be followed on the day of counting. While the fate of Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Assam and Kerala as well as the Union Territory of Puducherry is going to be decided on the 2nd of May. Slamming Election Commission over its way of conducting elections in various parts of the country, the Madras High Court has held election officers solely responsible for the COVID-19 second wave, which has crippled the country. Take a look. Murder. Let that sink in. Murder. Because that's the word the Madras High Court has used to describe the actions of the Election Commission. This for allowing political rallies during the pandemic. In a thundering observation, Chief Justice Sanjeev Banerjee has held the Election Commission singularly responsible for the second wave of COVID-19. He went so far as to say that Election Commission officials ought to be booked for murder. The scathing reprimand comes after one of the most crowded campaign seasons in India's political history, the masses of humanity pouring out at precisely the time when COVID precautions should have been taken to avert the second wave. Wagging an angry finger at the errant poll panel, the Madras High Court has also warned that it will stop counting on the 2nd of May if the Election Commission does not put in place a proper plan to ensure that protocols are followed. Public health is of paramount importance, and it is distressing that constitutional authorities have to be reminded in such regard. It is only when a citizen survives that he will be able to enjoy the rights that a democratic republic guarantees. Your institution is singularly responsible for the second wave of COVID-19. Election Commission officers should be booked on murder charges probably. Justice Banerjee's angry criticism comes at a crucial and telling time. West Bengal, which remains in watered-down campaign mode till the 29th of April, has witnessed the highest surge in COVID-19 tally in a month by reporting 14,281 new cases on Saturday. Kolkata alone accounted for 2,970 cases.
Election campaigning has been on in Bengal up till the last minute, albeit with certain restrictions. It was only the star campaigners who curtailed their rallies and decided to reach out to the electorate virtually. But that too, when a lion's share of the campaign was over. So was it too late?
Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu, which has come in for praise for its handling and preparations for the second wave, has just recorded its highest ever single-day spike with over 15,659 new cases in the last 24 hours, forcing the Edapati Palaniswamy government to clamp down with more restrictions. Whatever happens on counting day, one thing is clear: whether murder or otherwise, the damage has been done. With Pramod Madhav in Chennai and Paulimi Saha in Kolkata, Bureau Report, India Today. Well, it's time to wear a mask at home. Treat all symptomatic patients as COVID patients unless proven otherwise, says the Government of India in its most telling piece of advice. I filed this report earlier.
भी याद रहे कि अगर घर में एक पॉजिटिव व्यक्ति है तो जैसे अभी दिखाया कि उसको बहुत ज़रूरी है कि वो मास्क पहने, क्योंकि वो फेंक रहा है वायरस बाकियों को। और बल्कि अब मैं कहना चाहूँगा कि सीधा टाइम आ गया कि घर में हम वैसे ही अब मास्क पहनना शुरू करें। हम बाहर की बात करते थे, लेकिन संक्रमण जैसे है ज़्यादा है तो घर में भी बाई चांस किसी को आ गया है तो जहाँ तक हो गए घर में भी जब हम किसी के साथ बैठे हैं तो मास्क लगाएं तो फायदा है।
In what can be seen as an admission of a major spread in infection in the community, the government says mask up even at home. The government has asked for immediate isolation of anyone who has symptoms of COVID-19. Everyone is COVID-19 positive unless proven otherwise.
अगर आपको कोई भी कोविड के लक्षण हो तो आप अपने आप को एकदम आइसोलेट कीजिए। आप चेन ऑफ ट्रांसमिशन को रोकिए, देखिए कि आपके घर में और किसी को ना हो। इसका वेट ना कीजिए कि जब मेरी रिपोर्ट आएगी तभी मैं अपने आप को आइसोलेट करूंगा। टेस्ट कराइए। कई दफ़ा ये भी होता है कि RT-PCR टेस्ट नेगेटिव भी आ सकता है क्योंकि उसकी सेंसिटिविटी 100% नहीं है।
The government has also highlighted the risks associated with non-masking up and not following physical distancing norms.
अगर मास्क का सही ढंग से इस्तेमाल ना किया जाए तो 90% रिस्क है कि एक इन्फेक्टेड आदमी दूसरे अनइन्फेक्टेड आदमी को इन्फेक्ट कर सकता है। यहां भी अगर आप देखेंगे कि अनइन्फेक्टेड पर्सन अगर मास्क पहने लेकिन इन्फेक्टेड पर्सन ना पहने तो 30% उसके चांसेस हैं कि वह इन्फेक्ट कर पाएगा।
The government says the risk gets reduced to 30% if the unaffected person is wearing a mask. An infected patient can end up infecting 406 people in 30 days. The risk comes down to infecting 2.5 persons in 30 days if he follows physical distancing measures. Facing the twin challenges of a crumbling infrastructure and also mutating viruses, including the double mutant variant, the government says the surge is exponential. The government's own internal assessment points to the direction that by the 30th of April, a state like Maharashtra will have close to 1 lakh cases every single day. UP will be the worst affected state with 1,19,000 cases. For 5 days in a row, India has reported more than 3 lakh cases. In the last 72 hours, India has reported 10 lakh cases. These figures, these numbers just indicate that India is in a desperate situation. And that's the reason why this sort of an advisory has come in from the government. In New Delhi, Sneha Mordani for India Today. And not just wear a mask at home. Whenever you can, you must wear a double mask. Now, what does a double mask really do? Because this is something that everybody must now follow. And why should you follow double masking up? Let's give you an idea about that. The unknotted surgical mask blocks 56.1% of the aerosols that could be carrying the SARS-CoV-2 virus that could then end up infecting you. A cloth mask is blocking 51.4% of these aerosols as well. Well, a knot and tucked surgical mask blocks 77%. So you do it right, you knot it up here, right around your ears, and you get 77% protection. But look at how this goes up to 85.4% if you wear a double mask. A surgical mask which is knotted around your ear, and also a cloth mask on top of it to give you that added protection. So then the call really is yours on whether you should wear this double mask or not, because it just gives you just so much protection against SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Well, there is a test that has been approved by the Indian Council of Medical Research. It's called the CBNAAT. Now, what is a CBNAAT test? It is faster and easier to use also if you do a comparison with RT-PCR. I filed this report earlier. Well, is the CBNAAT test an alternative for the more reliable RT-PCR tests? Well, it tests quicker. It's easy to use and produces results within 45 minutes or even lesser if the result is positive. While the real time, which is the RT-PCR test, takes a lot more time to produce results. RT-PCR tests, though, are considered the gold standard of testing. RT-PCR tests are useful to detect acute infection, while CBNAAT, or cartridge-based nucleic acid amplification test, is basically used during emergencies for faster results. With new advancements in need of the hour, CBNAAT, or the Made in India TrueNAAT, was roped in. It is being used rampantly across the world, as also in India, because of the easy availability of these machines. Both CBNAAT or RT-PCR tests are polymerase chain reaction based tests and conducted through similar testing methods involving nasal and oral swabs. COVID has RNA or ribonucleic acid as their genetic material, and swabs from patients don't yield enough RNA to mix with that of the virus. To overcome this problem, the RNA, which is a single-strand molecule, is converted into a two-strand DNA using an enzyme. This process is called reverse transcription. The Indian Council of Medical Research has given an approval to CBNAAT and TrueNAAT test as an alternative for RT-PCR tests. Both employ real-time RT-PCR technology. However, since its technology is important, the cost of the cartridge runs into 3,000 rupees and the testing can go above 4,000 per sample. Another limitation is that it can run up to 4 tests at a time, while the conventional RT-PCR test can run up to 92 samples at one given point in time. While CBNAAT machines run on an uninterrupted supply of power and air conditioning and cannot be set up in containment zones, TrueNAAT machines are battery operated and portable. These machines have been used in the past to test tuberculosis. But now the latest and fastest is Abbott ID Now, which takes 13 minutes for negative results and 5 minutes for positive. It runs only one sample at a time. Unlike RT-PCR and CBNAAT, it is based on isothermal nucleic acid amplification. The time duration for testing becomes extremely important in an emergency situation that we have found ourselves in right now. It just helps in saving so many lives. Well, if you have the money and the opportunity, really, homes or yacht in countries where the pandemic is contained, it is natural you may feel like leaving this country. People who have the means are doing this. It is a trend that has been witnessed in the upper crust of the society. My colleague Chaiti Narula brings you this trend watch.
India is in the grip of the ghastly second COVID wave. Traveling by air is almost unthinkable now. Scary with busy terminals and cramped spaces in commercial airlines. Fewer people and empty terminals. Sounds like music to the ears and far more appealing than ever before. But make no mistake, we are in the middle of a health disaster. The only thing is, some of these flights cost upwards of 72 lakhs, or in some cases a crore, depending on which aircraft you end up choosing. The spectacular imbalances in our country mean that while some gasp for oxygen outside hospitals, several Indians can't really afford to fly out of the country on deluxe jets to evade COVID's death grip.
If you compare our business from 1920 to 2021, the market has been raised like approximate around 30 to 40%. We are getting the high demand. The volumes are gone high around 15 to 20%. So the inquiry volumes and the people using the charter services has been gone up. So 20 and 21, I think it's good for the Indian aviation.
Similar to last year, we are observing an increase in the charter demand, just like the pandemic. There is a heavy demand for promoters and CEOs traveling to countries like UK, Europe. We are seeing an increase in requirement for business jets as well as air ambulances, helicopters too. And we hope and we are very well aware this demand will continue.
India has been put on the red list by many countries. And just before the gates close, India's rich and mighty may have fled the ghastly outbreak, beating the deadline set by these countries. The following countries have either banned travel from India or restricted inbound Indian passengers. A massive barrier that could only be beaten if you have the means for luxury private jets and the cash to get them off the ground quickly. Wealthy Indians have gone away to their homes in Dubai, London, or on their private yachts in Maldives. All of this to escape the outbreak in India and the collapse of healthcare infrastructure. They can fully afford the luxurious exodus, so they're clearly thinking, why not?
People are scared now. The high-profile people, the people who've got money, they're scared now because the numbers are going up. You take, for an example, Mumbai. Mumbai numbers were going up. So people are scared here. People want to have a safe life. So that's why they are choosing UAE, because the volumes of the numbers of COVID are down there. Maldives is almost a zero. So they say, if we got money, why can't we spend it to our family?
While the travel industry as a whole has seen an unprecedented downfall, the charter jet business has seen a demand uptick close to the tune of 40% versus the pre-pandemic era. And the main reasons include the flexibility, social distancing, empty terminals, COVID safety, flying solo or with family or friends, reduction of risk of exposure as well. 30 lakhs to a crore of rupees may look like a big amount to most of us. But look at it this way. The affluent who fly commercial airlines do so in the first class anyway. Hence, for the entire family, the math adds up.
On the number of passengers, we have got from 6-seater to 14-seater, 13-seater. If you want 6-seater, it will be charged around 25 to 30 lakh rupees UAE, because I'm not talking about one way. See, we charge one way and the return also at the same time. If you want to go to UK, it will cost you around 60 to 70 lakh rupees. If you want to go to Maldives, it will be around not less than 35 to 40 lakh rupees. So we charge both the ways. We don't charge a single way.
The pandemic has changed everything. In this case, it is the approach to private travel that has changed. The safety net of a home in a country overseas is surely a luxury. In times like these, some of them prefer to make use of it. If one can afford it, the buck really stops there. In New Delhi, Shaiti Narula for India Today.